Good evening. My name is Hoshi Gaswala, and I'm happy to be conducting this CFO chat, which we're doing on an exclusive basis with few select leading CFOs across the country. I have with me today, Mr. Sandeep Batra, who's an accomplished CFO. He's with the Crompton Greaves Group, and we also have Keval Shah, who works, on the finance function with various companies. So, gentlemen, welcome. Sandeep sir, I'd like to start with my first question to you, okay, which is what are, we've seen 2 years of the pandemic, but, what are the current challenges and opportunities that you see in your segment, in the consumer product business, in your industry? And, how are you playing your part with these challenges and opportunities? We all know that the CFO's role has become extremely, critical and important now, but would like to hear, what is the role that you're playing as a finance leader? What are you doing as a finance leader with these challenges and opportunities? Over to you, sir.
Sure. So thank you very much, Hoshi, for having me on this, and big hi to Keval. I think there are innumerable challenges and opportunities, and we've seen like an avalanche of them in the last couple of years. Obviously, starting with COVID. Let me talk of the opportunities that we have seen emerge, because that is the more exciting part. So I think two opportunities I would certainly like to call out. One opportunity is this whole uh, premiumization that is happening in the industry, where the Indian consumer certainly has become far, far more discerning. There was a time not too far back into the past when you had either a white fan, which would sell largely in most of India, and a brown fan, which would sell largely in the southern part of India. And from that, we have come to a situation where there are so many variants and so many functionalities that the product offers. And these are all being driven by consumer needs. And I think it has been very heartening to see that companies are spending time, effort, and money behind trying to understand the consumer by doing survey, research, etc. And I would like to call out here three key types of differences that have come. One, I think, came many years back when consumers said they want a pretty looking fan, and companies came out with fans which had functional attributes but also aesthetically were nice. 6 years back, we in Crompton introduced a fan called anti-dust, because we figured out that cleaning a fan was a big pain in most households, and to some extent would lead to marital strife as to which family member will get up and clean the fan. And then came our anti-dust, which kind of attracted 50% less dust and therefore made fan cleaning that much less frequent. And of the last couple of years, we've seen now fans with many attributes, providing convenience and leveraging technology, be it fans which are made of plastic, which make less noise, be it fans which are voice activated or remote controlled, and so on and so forth. And that is a theme. I only used fans as an example. And therefore, this whole premiumization is not just about selling a same product at a higher price to the consumer. Consumer is not naive. You consumers always looking for value. And then it is up to manufacturers first to understand what is the pain point of the consumer, and then use your resources, be it R&D, be it manufacturing, to provide the differentiated offering to the consumer. However, at a price which is not exorbitant, because the consumer has in his mind the value price offset. The second big opportunity that I see, and this is something that has got, I think, accelerated because of COVID and working from home, is the relevance of kitchen as a very key part of the house. It's no longer the preserve of only one family member to use the kitchen. It is not just a place where people only cook food. I think it's kind of become a place where many family members use the kitchen. Convenience, speed, automation, features. I think you name it all. I think we were just doing a rough count of how many appliances or products get used in the kitchen, and it was surprising as to how many appliances is a homeowner prepared to have in the kitchen, provided it gives him comfort and convenience. So these are the two big emerging themes, and we from Crompton are putting significant amount of resources behind that. Having said that, opportunities don't come alone. They bring their own baggage of challenges. And if COVID 2 years back was a big challenge, most companies very nimbly and with a lot of agility overcame it. Uh, what we have certainly seen in our industry, and I guess it will apply to most consumer companies over the last 15, 16 months, has been runaway inflation. We have never seen this kind of commodity cost headwinds. Our industry is used to taking 2 3% price increase every year. Thanks to the way metal prices have gone up in the last 15 16 months, we've had to take in 1 year alone price increases of 15 16%. Now that's obviously been done for largely from our angle of passing on cost increases. Otherwise, we don't make that much margin that we can afford not to take pricing. But we don't fully understand the implications of that on consumer, because it's never been done. There is no playbook which says if you take 15% cost increase, what will happen to demand. And what we are seeing in the last few months, I would say, is some amount of down trading at the bottom end of the pyramid that is causing some demand related headwinds, because the whole market has got disrupted at this kind of unprecedented pricing action. There is a very challenging and very unique fallout of this, which is on the capital employed by my trade partner in the business. To give an example, if my trade partner was used to keeping, let's say, 1,000 fans in his stock, the cost of keeping that 1,000 fans now is 20% higher, because that much pricing action company has taken. So for my pricing, his capital employed has going up. So he has two choices, or three actually. One, he can put in more money, which is difficult. He doesn't have 20% extra cash around. Second, he will ask the company to give him extra credit. Third, he will keep 20% less fans because he wants to keep his capital employed same. So these are the kind of challenges that the our industry is looking at. That on one hand, while you have to deal with inflation by taking appropriate pricing action, that creates these unintended consequences, that suddenly the channel partner says, I will not keep that much inventory. And of course, now we have the biggest joker in the pack, this whole Russia Ukraine thing. Oil has gone through the roof. When it will stop, in what shape and form this disruption will unravel, we don't know. So I guess so while you have enough opportunities, there are enough challenges. And I think the role that the CFO does is to be able to take stock of each of these on a very nimble, agile basis. What the worksheet that one may have made 7 days back is ancient, is history, because yesterday steel may have gone up by 15%. So you have to be quite nimble in reacting and making sure that you are covering all flanks, whichever, but by taking whichever decision you are taking. So that's what I wanted to share on the question that you asked.
Thanks, sir. A few things that you said resonate with my own personal life, like the cleaning of the fan or the number of appliances in the kitchen for which we keep needing additional electric sockets. Uh, Related brings me to my second question. And I think the answer is obvious. So I'm going to ask you how. So, the question is, do companies in the consumer product business need a business transformation, especially after a turbulent 2 years? We know they do. So, what is the kind of transformation, according to you, that's required in your industry?
So I think there are two areas certainly which require transformation. One is around enabling using data or information that is available, because the speed of decision making is very different today. And I'm one big votary which says you can never wait for all information to be on the table before you take a decision. But as much as you can get, that information should be in a manner that you can process it and make sense out of it. Because if you wait for perfect information, the opportunity is gone. If you take information without data, that's also not very scientific. So I think one transformation all organizations need to do is to be in a position to process and all the data that is available. And companies have got humongous amount of data, but how do you make sense of it? So data to information to insight, I think that journey and that time has to be crunched into seconds, if one may say. And the second challenge that is happening, and I think we've seen huge acceleration of that challenge, is attrition. It's around people leaving you. So all the knowledge that resides in your people, how do you codify it? How do you corporatize that knowledge? Because if today I have that knowledge and tomorrow if I am not there, how does that knowledge get enshrined into the corporation? So for both, I think technology is the only solution that is available to reduce to help convert data into information into insight, so that corporations are able to take decisions much faster. And secondly, how do you kind of keep this knowledge management within the corporation, given the fact that people attrition is only going to increase in the future?
Two, actually, on the data bit, how does a company such as Crompton Greaves, that is dependent on channel partners, source and mine this data? Number one. Number two is, whilst there's a lot of data, how do you kind of decide what is usable and what is not? That's another challenge that everyone's facing right now. There's too much. In some cases, people are just beginning to compile data. In some cases, there is excess data.
True. So you're absolutely right. As I said, there is no dearth of data, but converting data to information and then using it for actionable insight is the real challenge. Currently, a lot of it is done by individuals, but I'm sure technology will provide that solution. When we demerged some about 6-7 years back, at that time, all information that we had about the market was primary information, which is what I am selling to my distributor. I had no information of sell down and what the distributor is doing with that material, and so on and so forth. So we experimented with many forms of how we can get secondary information, and that was always a big challenge, because the distributor he's a businessman. He has zero interest in sharing that information with me because he feels threatened. So we were able to get and implement a very simple solution through which, from his systems, we were able to and allowed to extract data which related to our products. So that kind of gave him some protection on his IP. Then now with this data that was available, now how do you kind of use this data? Because that information of is of no use unless you're able to put it to productive use. So we identified 3 or 4 use cases which were linked with my business strategy. So if my business strategy was to expand the number of outlets that Crompton product is available in, then that is one data point that I'm going to use. That how many outlets are you billing, and that kind of, through whatever means of presentation, that became a very easy KPI to kind of track with this data. Second, we said we will simply measure a ratio of secondary to primary with that data, so that we are clear that we are not kind of pumping in more material or doing too much of sales push, so that he is not able to then either pay for that material or whatever. And the third one, we said we are using our R&D capability, introducing many new products. How are those new products performing? So with, if once you define those use cases or the KPIs that you wish to track with the data, then processing, assimilating, using that data becomes that much more easier. Otherwise, you can get lost in the maze of data that you collect.
Keval, let me bring you in at this stage. ICEX, okay, is a forum to that you guys have put together to help, C-level leaders. Quickly tell us more about it.
Yeah, so the whole idea behind ICEX, it's basically industry knowledge exchange. What it means is that we want to be as close to our customers in terms of understanding their needs, understanding the challenges that they are facing, and at the same time, we are also solving some of these problems for our customers worldwide, right? So we can also bring some of our knowledge to the table in terms of giving out solutions. So, for example, sir mentioned that today the secondary data is something that they are trying to get from the distributors. One of the things that we did for our customers was to tag it to the warranty. So any final consumer who wants to get the warranty, they register the warranty on a website. They put in their experience of the buying of the commodity. That way they get both the experience part as well as who have they bought it from, which particular outlet have they bought it from, right from that particular website where the warranties are getting registered. So that resolves the problem of which consumer is buying from which area, which outlet. And it also gives me an understanding of what is the kind of experience that he has got while buying that particular product. Were the product features explained correctly? Was the salesperson aware of how the pricing is? So all of those conversations or experience data has also helped some of our consumer electrical customers or consumer goods customers as such to understand better in terms of how they should change or understand the delivery experience. So that is those kind of things, how we have solved those kind of use cases do help in terms of understanding what are the things that we can solve from a technology perspective, as well as how what are those needs that the industry is seeing, right? Sir mentioned that suddenly the input costs for their materials have gone off the roof, right? So is there any solution to that? Maybe I can go back and kind of understand how we have resolved probably this problem for some of our customers. Like in automotive, we have definitely solved that problem in terms of how they can see the impact of the input material cost into their different variants. So maybe that can get applied to consumer electricals. Why not? Why not? Right. So those are some of the exchanges that we really are looking forward to on this IKEX platform. So, and that's the reason why it's more of a conversational platform where we share our, ideas, where we share the problems that we are facing, and really look at, how technology can solve some of those problems.
Sandeep sir, back to you. Your recent Butterfly acquisition. Uh, how do you plan to integrate and leverage Butterfly, within the bigger scheme of things?
So certainly, I think it has been an very coveted transaction. We had been in discussion with them for the last couple of years, but it was more on and off. And as we saw their business transform into a pure consumer branded product, that was the time we kind of re started discussions with them, which was more towards the second half of last year. And since they were not running a process, it was all bilateral. We were able to kind of tie the whole transaction up in about 5 months. Uh, so that was certainly very, very coveted, and I think a fantastic addition to the Crompton family. But I think the biggest opportunity that sorry, Butterfly provides us is a very, very firm entry into a part of a home called kitchen. As I explained earlier, that's becoming a very important part of the house. And we had only one product. We had only one mixer grinder with very low market share pan India. For us to be a serious player in the kitchen, this one kind of leapfrogs us by maybe 4 5 years. So it accelerates our strategy by 4 5 years, because the three categories where they are very strong, namely pressure cooker, cooktop, and mixer grinder, is a key part of what gets used in a kitchen. And once you have that foothold, it is very much, or is easily possible, to kind of expand the portfolio into slightly bigger appliances, into a much wider range of products. And therefore it gives us the opportunity to now, if I may use the word, own the kitchen. And that is certainly the most exciting part of uh, this acquisition.
So now coming back to, outside Butterfly, the overall organization, what role, you spoke a little about data, but what role has information and technology played, during this recent period that's gone by, and how would you rate your organization in terms of the usage of technology on a scale of 1 to 10?
So for us, technology, and more around information technology, uh, has been one very important focus area from the time this company kind of came into existence. So about 7 years back, when we demerged, we did not even have our own IT system. It was something that was shared with the company that we demerged from. So the first focus was to implement our own SAP. And I must say, I've been part of about four SAP implementations. This, I would say, was the quickest and most cost-effective implementation we did. From from the time we started to go live, I think we took about 8 months. So most an outstanding, seamless, no disruption. Most people talk about how implementing SAP can be a big challenge, can disrupt your business. We had no outage. Absolutely seamless the way it went. And we took two approaches in implementing SAP. One approach was that we will implement most of the way, we will implement the current processes as they are. That was the default. Any change in current processes had to be justified by a business case. So as a result, benefits out of that technology were very clearly articulated at that time, and the number of such changes were far and few between, because every guy had to justify a business case. Once we got SAP as the core in place, then we started building ecosystems around that. So imagine SAP is the sun, right? And then we created concentric circles around SAP by uh, extending SAP applications. So whatever other applications, for example, we implemented Success Factor uh, around as the HR practice, and there were a few other SAP add-ons that we implemented. Then we looked at other off-the-shelf, not too much bespoke applications that could sit around SAP, which connected first our customers, and then they connected our vendors. So that's the immediate ecosystem that you need to connect. So we connected employees, customers, and vendors through applications that talk to SAP. Then we leveraged and looked at what other applications are available for very, very specific purposes, but all to be talking or in some way connected with SAP.
What plans for leveraging digital commerce and modernizing supply chains in the current environment?
Very much the need of the hour. I think on digital commerce, I think I did mention about how we can use technology. So, in terms of the customer end, can we have a cost effective ecosystem to A, improve the consumer experience in deciding the product, B, enable him to get his demand satisfied in partnership with traditional retail, and C, have it delivered and installed in his house. So basically, he gets the same experience, same number of clicks, but a larger ecosystem is involved in that, which is on the front end. Where are we on this? I think still some distance away, but we are clear what we want. The key is to get a cost effective solution. There is no point having something that doesn't create value for either party. Supply chain, equally more important, because in between actually the consumer demand and the supply chain, there is a big engine which is all about planning, or more responsive planning. Where should you keep your material? Where should you source from? So I think which vendor is the most cost effective supplier for that? How do you kind of predict demand? I think that is an equally important, and I think I will still refer to it as supply chain, because there is a lot of invisible value loss that happens in companies. Huge amount of value loss will happen. Value loss in working capital being blocked unnecessarily, value loss in material being double handled, value loss in sales opportunities that get lost because you didn't have the right material in the right place. So that's the area that we are now looking to focus on, as to how can your back end supply chain become far more nimble and agile, so that A, you don't lose any consumer demand, and B, you don't have any leakage because you had maybe too much inventory. So that I think is something that we have not invested in so far. Obviously, we prioritize investments towards the front end first, but that's something that we will now embark on. How to kind of take value out of the supply chain, because we have seen companies who have done it exceptionally successfully. So we know the size of the price. It's just about, so we've started one phase of it. We've uh, and that was more about identifying direction. Technology is the tool. So as we go down that journey, so we had a 5-year business strategy. We have put in place a 5-year sourcing strategy, which will enable the business strategy, which will talk about where should you make, how you should make, where should you sell from, etc., etc. Now, conceptually done, now we need the right technology to operationalize it. So that's, I think, the journey for the next couple of years, to make a far more responsive and cost-effective supply chain.
Sandeep sir, on sustainability, okay, it's become, huge core, whatever you call it. How are you all looking at sustainability? What are you all doing around sustainability?
So absolutely, very valid question in today's world, because it is now the next frontier, uh, in which organizations will be measured, and therefore everybody needs to differentiate on this platform. I think first and foremost is a belief that ESG or sustainability is good for the business, and that belief has to come from top down. Otherwise, if people think it is some report or some compliance, it will never get done, and it will get relegated to the person who leads compliance or something like that. So we are very fortunate that we have such an enlightened board, that many of the board members in their personal capacity, are champions of this subject. Because many of them have had experience outside of India. They're able to pick up trends of what is happening in the more developed markets around sustainability. So with that enlightened board, uh, we would be amongst the few companies that has a separate and a dedicated ESG committee. So it's not a tag along responsibility of any other committee. Most companies may be tagging it with CSR, but we have a separate CSR committee and we have a separate sustainability committee headed by somebody who's a subject matter, who's a champion, may not be subject matter expert. So what we have done is we've decided that we want to set maybe 3 year objectives on sustainability, and then with whatever your baseline is, then draw up a milestone based journey for the next 3 years. So we've engaged a top notch firm to consult with us. Their mandate is to look at themes which are relevant for our industry, connect with the key stakeholders so that we get the voice of the stakeholder on board also, and help draw out the 3 year milestone and the roadmap for Crompton to deliver that 3 year milestone. So we started this journey about 5 6 months back, and I personally am leading it. So it is not something that got dumped into me. It is not a CFO's. Some people say it is a CFO's domain, but I did not take it because I'm the CFO of any other reason. I took it because I have personal, passionate interest in that subject. Because I believe you cannot work uh, isolated. You cannot work at the cost of so many stakeholders that your organization impacts, and you have to carry them along. You have to make sure that what you do creates value for those bunch of stakeholders. So we are, as amongst the few companies in India, we are putting our money where our mouth is when it comes to sustainability.
As a leader, you yourself said you're also looking at sustainability very clearly. You're looking at technology. So I'm going to say, as a leader, what are your key priorities or projects for improving business over the next 18 to 24 months?
So I think our key priorities and projects is, uh, we started this journey as a separate company about 6 years back. We had set out a few strategic objectives before us, and on majority of the milestones we would have ticked all the boxes. I think the ones that I believe are important now for the next couple of years, one is to strengthen the innovation pipeline in the organization, which is, as a corporation, we have to become innovative. And maybe a company like 3M could be a benchmark, where everybody thinks consumer first, maybe internal for many functions, but largely external consumer. Understand the pain point of the consumer, use the capability that you have built, be it in marketing insights, be it in manufacturing, be it in R&D, to find solutions for the consumer. Because gone are the days that me too or some other solution will work. And for you to truly distinguish yourself from the pack, you need to offer meaningfully differentiated, distinct product propositions to the customer, to the consumer. And that, I believe, is the first and most important deliverable for the corporation. Obviously, technology is important, because how do you keep everything together? How do you retain knowledge? How do you enhance the quality of life of even your employees? If technology is a handicap, the whole ecosystem has changed. Gone are the days where all folks will sit under one roof. Today, the life is all about distributed collaboration, and technology is a very important tool to have distributed collaboration. So my view is focus on strengthening the brand, making sure that you are indeed bringing to the consumer truly differentiated products that address the unmet needs of the consumer. And you use technology to kind of weave all of it together, be it knowledge retention, be it employee motivation, employee engagement. So I would call out these two priorities.
Mr. Batra, thank you very much. Great inputs. I'm sure our audiences will love it. This will, result in a story write-up and the video that we'll have to edit because we've gone about an hour right now. So we need to do briefer videos. And, we'll share it with your office within a couple of weeks. Thank you, sir.